Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for all, let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for all, you know. Green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.
Aloha and welcome back to another episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast. This is take 2 for Iowa Joe and I, as software has crapped the bed once, but we are still here. We're going to just recap everything from Family Night, the first full week of training camp, and the periphery roster moves that the team has made to date. You know, there's just been a bunch of injuries that front office has had to accommodate for. They're just churning.
They've been cutting bait like real quick on people. Did you notice that?
Yeah, so. I guess in this one we'll touch on that now because it'll kind of like influence where we go with certain things. But the big ones is like the tight end room just got a complete makeover last week Monday right after we recorded our episode. So Luke Lachey and RJ Maryland were waived with injury designations and replaced with Bibber and Yasmin, the Australian. Shout out Nick Gregory and Marlon Jones and Jonathan Baldwin.
You got that wrong a little bit. Yasmin came in before.
Yes, you're right.
And they re-signed McCassell.
Yes, forgot about. I forgot about Castle. Yeah, McAllen Castle. So that's right.
Yeah,
Castles was the one who came in with Bibber. So. They've just had to revamp the tight end. It does make you want. Well, the funky one I thought was Maryland, because the Lachey one was the one where you're kind of like, okay, he's in a boot and on a scooter kind of thing. So that did sound like it was a potentially long-term thing. It was kind of interesting that with Maryland, they were just like, we're not waiting for a hamstring. Like, we need body. Like, I guess it does speak to like how badly they needed bodies in the room that they were like, yeah, we're not even going to wait for your hamstring, RJ. You're just gone. And we're going to bring in 3 new bodies to replace you and Luke at this point. And then...
they didn't do any kind of injury settlement yet. They have reverted to the IR.
Oh, is that what... Oh, okay. I'm always so, like, torn on, like, how they're going to designate guys if they do the waived injured or they... gonna revert one way or the other kind of thing, but yeah, I thought they had to be gone. I thought they had to be gone because the team was at the 90-man limit. So,
well, no, if you waive, I think this is how it works in the preseason. If you waive injure them, they pass through waivers, and then if nobody picks them up, they revert to the injured reserve.
Oh, you're right. Yep, there they are.
And right now, according to the roster on the official Packers website, both Lachey and Maryland are on reserved injured. So that's kind of weird that they have, it's been about a week now and they haven't reached an injury settlement. So it makes me wonder if they're going to keep them or...
Lachey I can see. Lachey I can see because that didn't sound like it was a short-term thing. Like I said, the Maryland one where it's like, he has a hamstring injury, and it's like, oh, you're gone kind of thing. So we'll see how that plays out for both guys. But yeah, they were legitimately down because of the Musgrave injury being on PUP as well. They were legitimately down to Kraft on super limited snaps, Josh Wiley, and Drake Dabney.
And Messiah Swinson.
So they were very limited in terms of guys who could be fielded in a practice. So makes perfect sense why they were like, yeah, we need bodies we can throw out. So, bringing back Castles, bringing in Bibber and bringing in Yasmin. So, like you said, it was just impressive and a little surprising how quickly they moved to like just totally redo the room. And
well, and I wasn't even just talking about those. I was talking about not just those. Excuse me. You also have the two that we'll be talking about here in well, I'll bring them up now. The Baldwin one and Marlon Jones. It's like they just cut bait with them. They didn't even wait and see. They were just like, okay, you're out, because they got injured at family night, and then it was like the next day that they were making a decision on him.
Yep. So, and I don't know, this is the first year, right? This is the first year where they're like, just, there's no middle of preseason cut down day. You're just cutting your roster down to 53 from 90 on one day kind of thing. So I am curious, like, if teams are gonna still function like there are the sub deadlines, and then, because I know some people are like, oh, you want to hold on to guys, but it's like, at some point, you need to give snaps to the guys who are gonna make your 53 or are on the extreme fringe of making your 53. You can't be giving snaps to guys 85 through 90 because you're intrigued by them and you're like trying to be like, oh yeah, that's the guy we want on the practice squad kind of thing and stuff. Like, I am curious how teams are gonna handle it moving forward. Especially for like
that goes against your thought process on that is the fact that they used one of the roster spots to sign another wide receiver.
I know, yeah. The Keyshawn Johnson thing just, but then again, partly because Golden and Reed checked in with injuries today, that Golden's one especially is a little bit unnerving, but Reed,
it's a toe thing, and LaFleur said they don't expect it to be long term.
Yeah, they don't, but just don't like seeing something like that pop up. I'm hoping it's as minor as they're saying it is. And then Reed of the two of them is the one that's like, oh, he's sitting out like half the number one snaps, and people are like, oh, it's a good thing they have Sky Moore, and I'm like, no. I'd rather give all the snaps to the guy who's earned the $17 million contract kind of thing. Like, we don't need to play this game anymore. Like you're at the point where you're legitimately paying guys to play specific spots. Play them. So, it's not great that he's got the ankle injury, but hopefully it is as minor as they're saying it is. And, he won't play in the preseason much, but if he could, he would. He would if he could, kind of thing. So,
and that's kind of the thing that I was worried about when it was announced that they came to long term, and we kind of talked about this when they gave him the contract extension. It's like, great, he's wonderful when he's on the field, but is he going to see the field? and
yep.
It's a little bit the same way with Watson, even though Watson has seemed to overcome a lot of his. It's great that they're giving him the contract. Yeah, they're explosive on the field, but they're still missing 3-4 games a season.
Yep. So we shall see how that clocks and checks out. But that's really this is great.
Transaction-wise, I think that's all, because I think they still have one spot open.
Technically, yeah, because they're at 90, and that is with Yasmin as the IPP man. So, but in terms of guys who,
I'm looking at it right now. Their transactions since 7/31, which we covered most of them, was they released Krieg, they waived injured Brendan Rice, who did not revert. I think he got an injury settlement.
Yep.
They signed Prather and Adamitis, or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Then 8-4, they re-signed Castle, signed Bibber, and waive injured Luche and Maryland. And then today they officially signed Keyshawn Johnson and waive injured Baldwin and Jones. So that would make one roster spot open.
Yeah. So now from the transactions to just who didn't participate. So The old names being Domani Jackson, Carrington, Josh Jacobs, and then Baldwin, who dropped out from Family Night. Not great seeing that Edge and Zaire were not practicing today. A little odd. Don't remember hearing anything about them during Family Night. Not sure if it's just a rest night. LaFleur did give this because Family Night was Friday, we plan to go light on Sunday, and then Monday will be a heavier practice day. So who knows if this is just limiting, trying to take load off certain starters kind of thing and stuff. But not great seeing those two guys on it. Obviously, we just went over Golden and Reed. And then Josh Wiley also not participating today, and kind of wonder if that's a load management thing, because he has been basically tight end one with Kraft not doing team drills up until today, and the number shortage they had in the previous week. So we'll keep an eye on that one. But the good news is returning to practice today were Javon Hargrave, Chris Brooks, Tucker Kraft after missing Family Night, Zach Bawele after missing Family Night, Banks again after missing Family Night, Wyatt and Haddon. So you got a bunch of guys back, and then also not really listed, but you had guys like Melton, McClellan, who else? Cisse, who all at some point kind of stepped out from Family Night due to different little things. It's good to see that those guys in particular, who LaFleur noted were somewhere between cramping, excuse me, they're due to cramping or so whatnot. So,
yeah, there was a lot of cramping, and you could tell when it happened. Like the McClellan one, you saw him go right for that calf, and you could tell it was a major cramp. And Cisse, with the way he was moving around on the sideline, you could tell that it wasn't anything major for him. It was just more of a cramping situation. Now, the Melton one, I wasn't sure of. It looked like it could have been like a hip or something because of the way he hit the ground and slid out of the end zone on his attempt. But yeah, it was, and of course I wasn't up there, so I don't know what the weather was like, but I imagine it was super hot and humid.
Yeah.
So
to each their own. Yep, hydrate, kids. But otherwise, it sounded like it was a good return to practice. Excuse me. One. Oh, there it is. What's it? Zaire had to go. Yeah, there, Zaire... Wes had to go somewhere. I'm assuming kind of quote unquote personal matter kind of thing. Golden with the toe, Reed with the ankle.
Out to Indy for the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah. Wiley with the neck.
Who it was? The Vinatieri. He was teammates with Vinatieri.
Yeah. So Wiley with the neck and Cooper with the foot. So we'll keep an eye on those, if those are legitimate or they were just finding reasons for them to have a day off. But positions with not much depth, not great. So we'll keep an eye on those, and we'll let you know how those all play out. But we can try again at going into how Family Night went. And as we were discussing, on each side of the ball, there's two position groups that really have most of the collective eyes of the fan base on them. On offense, it's the offensive line, and on defense, it's the cornerback room. I know that there's some questions in, what's the defensive front going to look like without Micah until he returns and all that kind of stuff. But really the quote-unquote season-long questions are going to be, what are they going to do on the offensive line, and what are they going to do at cornerback? And we will try again our offensive line conversation that we had before. So I'll keep my initial opening thoughts shorter this time so that it's a little easier for us to discuss. So your starting five at Family Night from left to right were Jordan Morgan, Jager Burton, Sean Ryan, Jacob Monk, and Anthony Belton. And we'll start with Belton because, he had been starting the whole way through training camp and then come into Sunday's practice after a rough rough family night for Belton. He was with the second team. They had reshuffled around because Bako Boale was back at right tackle, but the guards remained Burton and Monk. So Joe, we'll start with Belton, but we can then just go around the guard competition where it looks like Monk is ahead of Burton for now. But Burton, we know, as LaFleur has pointed out a couple times in pressers, that he looks ready to go from the team perspective. So, what are your thoughts on where Belton stands right now and what his, projection progression is looking for the team?
Well, I'm trying to remember what I said on the other one because I don't want to say it again because that's when everything went goofy on the recording program.
So you had brought up a comment that Belton...
yeah, so basically the thing is with Belton, I think he's still trying to find his spot. I'm pretty sure that you even found the quote that, he said he wasn't happy with the way his pass protection was, both at guard and tackle. So it's not something that is you want to hear. Well, I mean, you do want to hear that he's acknowledging that he's having issues, but you don't want to hear that this guy that you spent a second round pick on and you were hoping was coming into his own towards the end of the season and was potentially going to be your starting right guard, say he's continuing to have problems. And so it's just one of those things that I think they're just going to keep rotating him at the two spots, obviously with ZBB. He's not going to play in the preseason unless... And I said this in our aborted attempt earlier about Tucker Kraft, unless ZBB walks into LaFleur's office and threatens to throw him in a dumpster or something, you got to figure he's not going to play anything in the preseason. So, somebody's going to have to take the right tackle spot. You were talking about in the other before about Kennard, they may have a little bit of a worry with Kennard not looking so good. So you got to figure... I figure what the starting lineup for the first preseason game coming Thursday is going to be Morgan at left guard, Morgan at left tackle, Monk at left guard, Ryan at center, Burton at right guard, and probably Belton at right tackle. Then when they decide that Ryan is played enough or whatever, then most likely they're going to rotate Monk and Burton at the center position and move probably Belton into one of the probably right guard again with Kennard and whoever else is on the roster that they're going to rotate in, and that's probably how it's going to be through the rest of the game, is just those rotations. Burton and Monk are probably going to rotate, and I know that's the next point that we're going to get into, but they're probably going to rotate the left guard center position throughout the whole game after Sean Ryan exits, just because, well, we'll get into that in a minute. You asked about Belton. Belton, yes, there are major concerns, and this is one of those things that I know LaFleur had... was it with Kay Adams? I think it was most recently with Kay Adams. They were talking about Luke Butkus being there, and he really talked up Luke Butkus as a coach. And I know we've had our issues with it, and not just us, but other friends of the show have had issues with the way the offensive line and the coaching doesn't seem to be putting the offensive line in the position it needs to be, but that's not a good look at the offensive line coach right now when you still got your young guy who, again, was slated in to be your starting right guard saying, hey, I'm having issues with my pass blocking.
Yeah.
We're not happy where my pass blocking's at.
Yeah. And it was always going to be a work in progress because he had some technical issues that he needed to iron out. And that was one of the, kind of concerns with picking him, is he's an older prospect and he's still got technique issues that he has to work out and stuff. So like you said, it's that weird, like, you don't want to hear that, but there's also the, like, hey, he's acknowledging and recognizing where his shortcomings are, so that's a good thing. And of course, now the next good thing you need is that he fixes them and improves on them. But yeah, I think you're right that he's gonna be starting at right tackle to open the preseason game, because if for whatever reason Bako Boyle goes out of a game, I think they want Belton to be the right tackle. I just don't think they're very confident in Kennard there right now. And then, like you said, once Ryan comes out, I think that they're going to just, like you said, Belton probably goes to right guard at that point, and then it's just maybe you flip-flop a couple series between, like you said, Burton and Monk flipping between left guard and center at that point to shuffle them and keep them getting snaps, because I do think that Monk in particular is at the point in his career where he should have shored up his technique. It sounds like they're pleased with where he's at in terms of seeing the game, processing the game, all the like mental aspects of it, and transferring the whiteboard to the field and stuff. And he's at the point where like he just needs reps, and there's nothing that's going to help him more than experience and any kind of live reps he can get. So he needs those. And then same for Burton, where they have high hopes, like you alluded to earlier. LaFleur has made the comments that like he is ready to go for this team at this season at one of the three interior positions. And at this point, his biggest weakness is he's an NFL rookie with no NFL snap, obviously, because he's a rookie. And so, I know a lot of people will poo-poo what a preseason snaps are, but it's like you're playing another team. You're not playing your own teammates anymore. You're getting true live fire reps. And they're not, it's not like chalked up pre-approved plays for your team to scout. Like, it's not scouting tape. It is like you're going against actual other people who aren't gonna play it to the chalkboard. They're gonna just be human and do their own thing and stuff, and you just need to see those guys get those kind of reps. So while that's a little bit somewhere between like oh no on the Belton side, and we're optimistic with where Monk and different levels of optimism with where Monk is at in year 3 and with where Burton is as a fresh rookie. The best news I think on the O-line is the fact that Morgan has gotten some rave reviews from some former NFL player. We talked about it last week with Tasher Bulaga and Joe Thomas, each giving somewhere between positive to glowing reviews of how they think Morgan looked thus far in training camp. And then even on family night, he didn't do anything that was otherworldly, but it wasn't Morgan's guy who was causing the problems for the Packers offense when he was on the field. And like, honestly, if he's that level, that is immensely better than what Rasheed Walker was giving you down the back half of the season. So you just take that as an absolute win if that's the level of play you're going to get from Morgan at this point. So I look at that as a positive, and we'll just have to, just like we say you don't want a team to peak too early, that's the same with an O-line. Now, obviously, you need a good floor because you don't want to get your quarterback messed up while you figure things out. But at the same time, you want that unit to gel, to coalesce, the individual players to figure things out as they go through the season. And then as, a collective 5, that group is stronger by the end of the season than anywhere it was during the season. So that's the hope. And like I said, if Morgan is shoring up a lot of the question marks Walker created at left tackle, that's a huge win regardless of what happens at the other spots.
Right, and I kind of said this before with both Morgan and Monk. I kind of equated Monk to getting the Jake Hansen, Royce Newman treatment, not because he's a bad player, because we don't know. We've not really seen him get meaningful snaps, and he's had limited snaps and preseasons the last couple of years, but other than that, he's not really had a ton of meaningful snaps. But I equate him to both Newman and Hansen in we're just going to throw you out there at these positions, and you're either going to sink or swim. And even if you just give us a dog paddle, that'll save your roster spot. But if you go out there and sink like a stone, we're just going to cut bait with you. If we can get something out of you in trade, we're going to get something out of you in trade. If not, then, thank you for your time here. Good luck. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. But with Morgan, it's one of those things that, again, you're going to sink or swim with him. I hate going back to the same boat with the puns and the sayings and shit, but it is going to be sink or swim. There's no Rasheed Walker that can step in if things are getting bad. There's no free agent out there that I'm going to trust to come in and be that left tackle at this moment. I mean, obviously things could happen with the final 53 cut down, but they've put all their faith into Jordan Morgan being the left tackle of the future. And, I kind of, again, to equate this to something else, it's kind of like Marshall Newhouse a few years ago, where we know, it could be one of those situations where we know he's not good, but he's the only one we got that can play left tackle. And, I don't want to see Morgan end up like that. I do want to see Morgan succeed, if I can speak. But because Jordan Love isn't a left-hand quarterback. Jordan Love is a right-handed quarterback. That left tackle is blocking his blind side. And there's a reason they call it the blind side, is because he can't see what's coming from that side of the field. And you don't want him to be in a situation where he has no idea that he's going to be getting hit from that side of the field. So you got to have somebody who's at least going to give him a little bit of time to see what's going on. So, like you said, we haven't really been hearing anything bad. We haven't been hearing anything good. But usually when it comes to linemen, no news is usually good news, because if you don't hear them, then they're not messing up. So it's kind of weird that, and we're both Big Ten football fans, and we're used to offensive line being the constant talk, but with the Packers, we've never been into this situation where we've worried what the starting five is going to be.
Yeah.
And now the last couple of years, it's been a worry about what the starting five is going to be, because there's so many question marks right now.
It's legitimately been since Thompson took over in 2005. He cut, he let Marco Rivera go in free agency. He released Mike Wall to free up cap space. And it's like, okay, we've got Clifton, Tauscher, Flanagan's coming off another ACL problem, and it's like, so what's the interior of this offensive line going to look like? And, the answer in that season was not good, Bob. But, I do think there is upside in this group. It's just a matter of if and when they figure, they get their traction and, how much they can improve over the season. So, it's a red flag. It's something to be concerned about, but also it's not like they have nobody. That's the thing, is that there's a lot of ifs on this offensive line, but if they get even 4 out of 5 things right, it's going to be a solid to good room. So they just need the majority to win out, which I'm hoping they can do.
Right. And the only thing that I would say about that is, again, back to my point with Morgan, there is nobody that can take left tackle.
Yeah.
That you would hope for. So you've got to hope that he's going to be even, mediocre.
Right.
You can't even think about him being subpar. He's got to at least be mediocre.
And the opposite side of that coin is, if Bako Bowele is himself, it's, one side of your line is shored up, no ifs, ands, or buts. If he can't get back to that level, or if he's at all diminished by this patellar tendon repair, it doesn't really matter what the rest of the line does, unless Morgan really ascends to where, he doesn't have to be at where Tom was last season, in terms of, his top-end play. But unless that flips, and you need Buckle Boiling to be like 80% of where he's been before. You need that as a baseline, because if you don't have that, a lot of the upside of this line goes right out the window with it. So that's the other big domino that has to be known. Yeah.
But at least with him, if, there's a setback or anything, we know we can slide Belton over there. We can slide Kennard over there. We can slide, maybe a Travis Glover or whoever wins one of the final O-line spots for the roster. And we could trust that, they're going to be okay over there. We don't know about that with the left side. So that's why I said you got to put everybody in Packerland has to send all their willpower to Jordan Morgan just to make him be at least mediocre.
If that, either that or the great composer reincarnate Jonathan Williams needs to be a good player, which, okay, I do think he is O-line 9 at this point, because he's played like every spot on the O-line this season, including center, which is kind of odd because they have 3 guys ahead of him. But you know what? So be it. If he can legitimately play 5 positions, that's good for him in terms of his ability to make this roster. It sounds like he used his time on PUP and IR last season very well, because everyone's like, oh, but he was a really smart kid. He's an aerospace engineer, all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, okay, but like, how many times have we seen guys spend the whole year on IR and just waste it and, come back and look completely unprepared? It sounds like
I'm going to tell you something about smart people. You can be a smart person. You can be a book smart person.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you
street smart.
Smart.
Yeah.
You can be book smart, but you and I always use this as an example. When I was in high school, there was this girl that was super, super, super book smart. Constant straight A's, constant this, constant, she could do anything with schooling and education and all that. She couldn't drink a bottle of water. She for some reason, with her mind, with her head, she didn't know how to close her mouth when she drank a bottle of water. So the guy that she was dating in high school's mom is still a seamstress. She would have to make bibs for this girl to wear, so when she drank a bottle of water or any kind of drink, because for some reason the common sense was not there to close your mouth when you take a drink. So that's why I said there's a difference between being smart, book smart, and being smart. If you can be both street and book smart, you're going to be the best in the world.
Yep. And for whatever it's worth, it does sound like Williams has proven to be that. So, good on him, like I said, for putting the time in.
Tangent, but I always hate when people start bringing up, well, he's this, or, he went to school for this. There's a difference between school smart and rest smart.
So, and the reviews have been glowing so far. Like you said, I don't know what answers they got. He might have to be one at left tackle, because a lot of the options have not looked good so far. But I know he's been repping mostly at interior O-line, but he may need to open the repertoire up, or just be there in case, anything happens with Monk, Belton, and Burton, and Banks too, going through the season. So we shall see with that.
They still have him listed as just a pure guard.
Yeah.
But I know he has been repping, like you said, he's been repping everywhere. I think he was getting some left tackle reps during this last week's training camp practice, and I think even at family night. But, it's one of those things that, like you said, they must have seen something in him they really liked, that they kept him around all of last year, even through the injuries and all that. Going into the season, he was on, the PUP list and all that, so they had hopes for him at that point. You could even argue that he's not even the number 9 OL. He could be like a number 6 or 7 at this moment, just because...
Yeah, depending on how... Like you said, if Kennard is solely for 6 O-lineman use at this point, like... and that opens a whole nother can of worms that I don't even want to waste time on it, because I just don't think they're going to move him unless something really weird came up. But it does make you wonder with how they're just so open to Belton moving out there over what they've seen from Kennard so far in camp. So, yeah, we shall see. Flipping sides to the other side of the ball, as noted previously, the other position group that's under the the magnifying glass is cornerback. Brandon Cisse looked awesome on family night. Yeah, he took some lumps and stuff, and there are
going to be growing pains with a rookie corner.
And I know, Watson, there are things Watson does really well, i.e. be really fast and explosive, and he's still, he's improved as a route runner, but it's not like Cisse's out there guarding prime Devontae or anything. But it's good to see that when a rookie gets thrown into, pure one-on-ones and those kind of situations, that he's able to punch back with the veteran player and stuff. So, really good to see from Cisse.
Philosopher Jair Alexander said, "Iron sharpens iron."
Yep. So, what's it called? It's just good to see him. Yeah. It's good to see Cisse in there producing, battling, and they really need to have it because, one, Carrington continues to be out with a hamstring, and two, I know we've ragged on the guy a lot in the past, but Nixon just was awful on family night. Like, all his previous issues, not having a good sense when the ball is coming, his press technique remains just unsightly at times. That's where a lot of, the Golden clips where Golden is just toasting him off the line of scrimmage. A lot of it is a product of Nixon just, I don't know if he doesn't know what to do, doesn't have the technique to, whatever it is, he's not doing the job in press jam technique at the line of scrimmage. And then he just doesn't have any sort of explosiveness or speed to make up ground after he gets beat off the line of scrimmage. And that's the part that was most concerning. And, I had some back and forths with a couple people, shout out Aaron Doppelganger. But, and in his defense, he was trying to point out, like, hey, let's just be positive about how Golden looks. But I was like, Perone and I were kind of saying, like, why is Nixon, we made our jokes about, did he really have a hamstring? Did he hold in and realize, like, with whichever way it was, oh God, the rookie can actually play kind of thing. But I don't understand why Nixon was like, I'm back and got a starting spot back the next day kind of thing. It's like, you weren't very good last year. This isn't the same defense, and and the guy who brought you to Green Bay isn't here anymore. So, like, the things that you used to have in your favor, we can argue about if the first one, but the latter two of where, like, your player in the returning defensive scheme and the guy who brought you to Green Bay was the associate head coach, those two are no longer true. And I don't understand why Nixon is getting the benefit of the doubt. I know St. Juste has had a couple, like, little ding-ups here and there kind of thing, but overall, he's looked better in the drills and teamwork than Nixon does. I just don't understand why Nixon is getting any sort of benefit of the doubt at this point over anyone else. Because it's like, I get that St. Juste hasn't been healthy a lot of his career. He's had issues with nagging injuries and all that kind of stuff. I get that Cisse is a rookie. But what is Nixon doing that's giving you a better chance to succeed as a team defense over the best of what those two guys can offer you? And, like, that's my consternation with the position group at this point, is I'm just like, I just don't know why you're wasting first team snaps on Nixon at this point. Like, or I don't want to say wasting, but, like, I don't understand why he comes back after sitting out a day. Like I said, I don't care which reason why, but I don't understand why he comes back and is, like, immediately at the front of the line again. Like, that's the part that I don't agree with at all. Like, there's no reason why he should be like, okay, I'm back, I'm first man up again kind of thing.
You're not going to get an argument out of me on that one. I was able to watch a lot of the family night practice, and there was a couple of times that, and I know, they don't tackle in training camp practices and all that, but there were a couple of times that he was in the area that he would have made the tackle, he would have been in position to make the tackle after the catch or whatever, and you could see him hop to the side, and it's like, well, he's in postseason form already. So it just, I don't understand it either. Like you said, the two people that were his biggest rah-rahs are not on the staff anymore. You got to believe this is definitely got to be his final year in Green Bay, unless they come to him and say, hey, if you want to stay here, we'll let you return kicks, but that's about it. And you can be an emergency corner if we need it, but you're pretty much, well, I don't say useless, because anybody who's made the NFL and has had a long career in the NFL can't be considered useless. I don't care who they are, whatever it is. If you've made that, and he's been in the league for 8 years, there's a little bit there that they, special teams, whatever it is, but, and I see the same stuff that you do with the support of him and all that, and it's like, I get it. You want to rah-rah, you don't want to poo-poo a lot of things, and, you want to be a supporter of the team, but that also doesn't mean you have to be okay with everything they do.
Yeah. Like, and that's my only point, is I'm like, especially now, it's like, give the only quote-unquote defense I got is that Domani Jackson is still dealing with whatever injuries kept him out of OTAs, like the after effect. I would be really irritated if Jackson was fully healthy and you don't have to give him first team snaps, but like if he was getting shoved down the roster just to make Nixon feel good about where he stands with the team kind of thing. It's like, okay, like, I know that different people have different opinions on how good either prospect is, particularly Domani Jackson, but it's like, all things being equal, if the front office was given truth serum, their ideal scenario is at some point Cisse and Jackson are your starting cornerbacks by merit, because that means that the two guys you have under contract for the longest period and in the room are giving you some kind of tangible positive return that they've justified starting at cornerback for the season at some point. So
and you gotta wonder what the rotation would be if Carrington wasn't hurt right now. Would Nixon be getting the number one slot? Would St. Juice be getting any kind of time there? Would Cisse be getting his time if it wasn't for... And this isn't in support of Carrington, because, Mike and I have
has his issues. Yep.
Yeah, clear on his issues. He can't tackle. He won't tackle. So, but he can be a hell of a coverage guy. And if you can at least cover and stop the catch from happening, then you don't have to tackle. But, it is what it is. We were joking about it in one of our group chats, that there was during, not family night, but during like training camp, that it was during one of the one-on-ones, and we were talking about it, and somebody said, oh yeah, Golden's looking good, and we got to looking at the video, and it wasn't even Golden that he went up against, and it's like,
oh shit, yeah,
it's like, Nixon looked horrible, and I used one of my favorite quotes from the movie Major League, yeah, he did it against a guy who's going to be bagging groceries in a week, and it just...
it was one of those where we were kind of like, how did we even get this wrong? Because Golden's obviously wearing 0 kind of thing, but yeah, well, and I know he had...
Nixon just sucked.
Yeah, I know Sturdivant had the one route against him where everyone was like, oh my god, Sturdivant got behind Nixon, and then that was the one that I was like, it honestly wasn't even a good route by Sturdivant. Like, Sturdivant, like, that was the one where Sturdivant got vertical on Nixon, and I think I quote tweeted it where I pointed out, I was like, honestly, this is just really bad play by Nixon, and he's lucky because he's lucky to commit DPI on the one-on-one rep because Sturdivant doesn't honestly do much with his release off the press look. So again, Nixon, what are you doing? He just blows by him on the outside, and then the part that Sturdivant screwed up on and allowed Nixon to get back in to make DPI is that he doesn't restack him once he gets over the top of him, which is where, if you're the receiver and you're running past the cornerback, you have to get back over in front of him so that he can't come and make a play on the ball. And it was one of those where, I was like, from a wide receiver point of view, none of this is teach tape. And Nixon still got burnt really badly on the play. And if the ball is any kind of, if the ball is thrown on time or where it should be, i.e. 5 to 10 yards further down the field, Sturdivant is walking into the end zone and Nixon is just in the mud kind of thing. So,
I think that's the one we were seeing, but I was just looking it up. I used the quote on a different one. People were praising Sky Moore doing whatever it was against a guy, and it was... that
was when we thought it was Oladapo, but it wasn't even Oladapo that rep.
It wasn't Oladapo, and people were praising it. It's like, no, that's something we can talk about here in a minute, but... with Nixon, it is with him. And there was a couple, like the one that I know we were all laughing about because Jacob Morley comes out. Well, that's a perfect pylon throw. It's like, no. But like I said, it just with Nixon, it's a horrible situation we're in. They should have invested in corner a while back. I'm not saying they should have took a corner over Matthew Golden because we'll talk about Golden here in a minute. Golden is going to be a star. There's no doubt about it. He's already on his way. So I completely agree with what they did there, but there should have been no reason the rest of the draft a corner couldn't have been taken because Nixon needed to be off the roster last year. Especially after being the guy that got his butt handed to him to finish off the comeback in the playoff game against the Bears.
Yep. He has the interception in the first Chicago game, but it's not, you have the not making the tackle in the Chicago playoff game. You have the coverage against DJ Moore. You have the multiple times, but the worst one being in the Cowboy game where it's like he just stops playing multiple times last season, but the Cowboy one was the worst one where it's just like he just stops playing in the middle of the play and I forget, I think that was Flournoy comes back and makes the diving catch on the sideline and it's like, okay, Mr. I'm CB1, CB1s don't do that. CB1s are making the play for their team, not getting posterized and stuff. So like you said, we don't have to beat a dead horse or anything on this one, but it's like I said, if the corner room had a little more oomph to it, and even just in terms of how it's constructed this year, if Carrington's not injured, if Jackson's not injured, I would have more issue, but I do still have it does make my eye roll that he sits out the first day of training camp and then Cisse and St. Just have a good day, and it's like, oh, I'm back. I'm back, and he immediately is at the front of the line. That is the part I have a problem with. But
so, just one of your eyes roll when that happens, or which one?
More the right one. Other standouts from the defense, Baron Sorrell just continues to be a madman. He had multiple reps where he just dump truck the blocker in front of him. He got Monk. He definitely got Burton on one play. I think he got Wiley on another one. People are like, oh, the pass rush is not. I don't take pass rush on family night for much of anything because you can't touch the quarterback, you can't do certain things and stuff. And then none of these guys are going to just win instantaneously like Micah does with any sort of consistency. If they did, we would hear about it more often kind of thing. So,
if they did, we wouldn't have needed a Micah.
Yeah. So, but good to see improvement from Sorrell. I thought Lucas did some solid things in terms of like how he sets up against the run. Again, he's a guy that's just not gonna be at his full go in a family night setting because like his physicality, he can't use all of it on family night kind of thing. It was nice to see him
not one to go full board just to not risk injury.
Yeah. I thought Brinson put some good plays on tape. Yeah. McClellan was solid. Ford had a TFL or two, and
Let's give props to this guy for coming in as a first year player. Anthony Campbell, that guy is like a pass batter down specialist.
Yeah, and not just as a first year player. He like barely played his last 2 years in college too, kind of thing. So like, it's one of those feel good stories. I think they have something there. I don't know if he'll be able to crack the top 6 to make the 53-man roster. I think Ford has just been like better at doing like truly D-line things than him or Stackhouse, but definitely a guy to keep an eye on that, like, if he doesn't make the 53, he's definitely a preferred guy for the practice squad at this point.
I'd throw him on special teams too, just to see if he can make that friggin' connect.
Put him on the field goal block unit.
My God, what's he up to? He's at like 7 batted passes already throughout training camp.
Definitely 5.
Well, I think he was in 5 going into family night, and then he had like another 2.
Yeah, so I'm seeing a couple of scattered counts. Definitely 5 he has, so I'm gonna just stick with that. I missed if he had one today in Sunday's practice, but just a real, like you said, those are the kinds, when you're a relative no name coming into training camp, that's the kind of showing you gotta have to, whether it's to make the roster you're currently on or to get the attention of one of the other 31 teams. But given what the state of Green Bay's room is, I hope that they find a way to kind of keep him around, because I think there's something there. It's sort of like how we talked about Brinson last year, where it's like he's definitely raw, but there's so much like athletic and physical upside there. You'd like to ride the crazy train just a little bit to see if you can, avoid a Lawrence Guy situation again, where it's like, oh, you just weren't patient enough and you let a like decade-long top half starter walk out the door on you, kind of thing. So it's that kind of like foresight and patience that you hope the team keeps with it. Linebackers didn't really do too much. I know Hopper had the safety.
Before we skip on him, Colin Oliver was putting together some decent pass rushes during family night too. So I mean, he's getting his footing in there.
Whereas, like I said, Lucas and some other guys, it's not quite their setting. Like Oliver, it definitely is his setting, where it's like his ability to just literally run around guys, that gets like played up in a family night type of setting. So, like you said, it's definitely good to see him translate in that setting. So, really good to hear from Oliver as well. Good to see and hear from Oliver as well. Linebacker level, like I said, nothing good or bad, really. I know Hopper had the safety, but that play was kind of screwed no matter what. It was more of like he happened to come on a run blitz on the perfect look kind of thing, but good on him for like making the play happen.
Well, yeah, that's one of those things that I said it on, I tweeted it out when it happened. That's the kind of thing that you want on a free run. He had a free run. If he wouldn't have made a play on the free run, then you gotta be like, what's going on here?
Yep. So that was the linebacker level, and then safeties. I thought Oladapo looked fine out there. Bullard's gonna get chewed up for how he played the golden deep ball. That's kind of been one of his issue spots, is like playing the ball in the air at depth and stuff, and you can tell that like he thought he had a beat on it, and then he was like, when he takes those 2 like backpedaling steps out of his turn when he's running to the deep portion, it's like, oh no, he totally misjudged the ball. And like I said, Love had way more room where he made that throw, but the broadcast angle made it look like Bullard was right there. In reality, he was still like 10 yards away from the ball to truly make a play on it. But it is one of those where you'd like to see him like understand to just keep running at this point, like to have better spatial awareness and understanding on how to like take routes to the ball. So that was a little bit of a negative. And then the other bummer is like Williams and McKinney both dropped interceptions out there. Like, they made some reads and they just couldn't come up with interceptions, and that was kind of a story from last season, and you hope that it's not a problem again in this season.
Well, what I was going to say was back to the Bullard on Golden, where I was saying Jacob Morley come out and said, well, that's a perfect pylon throw. No, that's just the typical Jordan not having the greatest feel for a deep throw, so he just lofted it up there and happened to get it in the right spot at that moment. But Oladapo, it's kind of weird with the Oladapo and Bullard situation, because Bullard has been tremendous as a slot guy and struggles a little bit deep, whereas Oladapo seems like he's more of a deep guy and struggles a little bit more up close. And I was kind of seeing that with the family night stuff when we would kind of see Oladapo, because a couple of times he got beat, it was when he was playing up close. But the plays that he was kind of making were when he was playing as a deeper safety. So that's kind of a interesting thing there for him.
And like his like, so the Savion touchdown, he's in good position. It's just that's a guy who's not used to playing trail technique man all the time, where it's like understanding when to turn around and look for the ball, all that kind of, there's certain timing on individual routes and things like that. He's moving a lot better in that role than I thought he would, because he's not like a super fluid looking, like his build. He's a decent athlete for his size, but again, that's with the for his size qualification. So it is interesting to see how he moves out there. But yeah, I do think that they're cross-training him to like be Bullard's backup. But I'm just glad to see he's out there, and he is the top gunner opposite of Melton. So his roster spot is basically locked at this point. But I do think they're just trying to figure out ways to get him on the field, especially because Gannon has again and again professed that he's going to run a lot of 3 safety looks. So being able to mix and match, whether you're counting Bullard as a corner or if Oladapo's going to be out there in like the dime or penny packages and things like that. So just giving you way more flexibility in your coverage options. So like I said, it's a work in progress with Oladapo, but I'm encouraged by what he's put on film, as opposed to being like, oh no, like it's never going to happen for him kind of thing. So like what we're seeing there. Before we go to offense, we will talk about Trey Smack. I thought Smack had an excellent night on Family Night. Just everything looked really solid. I know he had the one kick that went just wide left on him, but that was a 51-yard kick. Everything else was pretty much perfect. He was pretty center mass on everything else, and he even dealt with a false start, so he like made a 42 and then had to re-kick from 47. Didn't have any issues on the re-kick, so he was 6 of 7, but technically you could argue he was 7 of 8 because he had to re-kick and stuff. But I just a really nice day at the office for Smack after like we said, Family Night isn't a tell-all either, but the thing that I'll give Family Night the bigger nod to is like everyone has to remember is that Hinkle, there are no NFL stadiums that are like Hinkle, because Hinkle doesn't have like, you're not in a bowl of any sorts. The wind is like, it's like kicking in a high school stadium more than it is like kicking in a professional NFL stadium where like, right? I don't think there's any stadiums that are just like open on the sides like Hinkle is. So, the way the wind affects
the outside practice field?
Or not Hinkle, yeah, the outside practice field.
That's Nitschke.
Nitschke, dang it. Yeah. So, but Nitschke is wide open. So, like, if there's 20-mile-an-hour gusts, you're getting 20-mile-an-hour, as in, like, a stadium, it'll swirl and all that kind of stuff. So, like, it's a different profile and stuff. Yeah.
the practice fields are weird because you have Nitschke that's the open one for when they practice in front of the fans. The Hudson Center
is the indoor.
Indoor one, and then I think the Hinkle is the one where they close off that nobody can see.
Oh, okay. It's still outdoor, but I know what you mean. Like it's closed to the public. Yeah. So
and they wrap tarp. And then you've got the underground one that I don't know if it has a name or not.
The dungeon.
But yeah, that's where they do their walkthroughs and all that is the underground practice facility on like game days and stuff.
Yep. So, good to see Smack bounce back. On offense, we'll just address it. Golden was awesome. It was freaking awesome. Whether it was cooking Nixon in the one-on-ones, he had the deep ball, and like you said, it wasn't the greatest throw. Like I give it like a B+ or A- from Love, just because, like you said, it wasn't perfect, but he put it in a safe spot for where it was golden or nothing, and I do give those a little bit extra boost on the grading. But Golden adjusts to that ball perfectly. He fades himself to it, leans his head back, all that kind of stuff.
I do wonder, I know they called it, but do you think it would have held up as a touchdown in official review? Because I don't know if the ball crossed the pylon. I know his foot crossed it.
Are you talking about the one-on-one? Are you talking about the one-on-one play or the deep touchdown over Bullard?
The deep touchdown over Bullard, where I just said with the Morley one where he called it
Morley was talking about the one on Nixon. That's why the Nixon one was really close. You're right.
Well then maybe that's the one. He was talking, that's the pylon throw, because it was like he caught it and it was right there at the front pylon. And he swung his leg around the pylon, and it's like, okay, do you think that would have been considered a touchdown if they went through official review? Because I didn't pay attention enough to see if the ball crossed the line.
Because the only angle of that play I saw was from like the broadcast view, I can't honestly tell you how it looks in terms of like if he truly gets the ball inside the pylon, because it's that whole rule on the goal line where like you have to break the plane, but the ball has to be in the field of play, i.e. so it has to be above or inside the pylon. I can't tell from the broadcast angle because he catches it, crocks it in his right elbow, but I can't tell where his torso exactly is in relation to the goal line. So it's definitely a catch, but like you said, I can't tell if it's definitively a touchdown or if he's out at like the 2-inch line or whatever. So yeah, it was one of those plays.
Yeah, so I know it doesn't matter, but it just was one of those things that Golden made a hell of a play on it. You just hope that and I'll say this about Sturdivant too, just kind of to mix them. You need to have a little bit of better spatial awareness. Yeah, and I said this with Sturdivant that he made some tremendous catches, but they would have been out of bounds, or they would have been this, or they would have been that, because he didn't have the spatial awareness. And I get it, they don't paint the field to be NFL regulation during family night. They just put the basic stripes out there, so he didn't have the end zone, the wide brim end zone area for the touchdown. If he was inbounds there, they didn't have it along the sideline either. So that's a little bit rougher. It's just not to take away from what they did, because like I said, I'm going to be a Golden ride or die until he gives me a reason not to be. I'm going to put my cap on him just because that was one of the few times that I've predicted correctly what the Packers were going to do in the first round. And so I'm going to be supportive of that no matter what. Yep. So I'm completely for it. It just be a little bit better with your spatial awareness, because you don't want that popping up in a game and have to come down to a decision by New York and the refs on the field. Make it to where, and it could have been one of those things that he misjudged it and he had to catch it the way he did.
Yeah, but from a lot of other people, it sounds like it's the whole college guy or rookie NFL receiver, making the transition from college, like not being aware that you need 2 feet, kind of, and all, how much more space you need to get that second foot down and stuff. We saw a couple nice plays from Nair. I know the one like wouldn't have counted either way, but the one where he like Superman dove for the ball on the sideline, he was like a whole body length out of bounds, and the ball bounced out when he hit the ground. But like seeing a guy make that kind of effort when he knows he's on the fringe, like he's on the outer fringe of the roster. And then he did have the nice play in team where he catches the deep out along the side. He was aware of where he was, made sure he got his feet in bounds when he made the catch and stuff. So interesting to see him get some snaps with the ones.
Savion and then, looked pretty decent in the stuff that he was doing.
He had the nice back shoulder catch, and then he looked like me trying to jump up the Lambeau wall right afterward.
Watson. I've got to say this about Watson. Watson was doing good with his routes. He looks like he's getting stronger with his route tree. Now you got to learn to finish the catch, because there were a couple of passes that went right off his hands that, okay, now you're getting paid decent money. Now you're viewed as the number one receiver. You need to start finishing out with it. It's great that you're picking up the routes. It's great that you're picking up, better moves to get open. But once you're open, you have to finish it.
Yeah, and he really did catch the ball well last season, and even in 2024, he was catching the ball pretty well. But yeah, that drop he had on the dig stop route, that was a rough one. Like, I know it was a little high from Jordan, but that's one he absolutely has to come out down with, because that's going to be a staple from his route tree this season. Is he's going to run a lot of overs, a lot of deep posts and goes, and then he's going to have to convert those stop route situations, because that's further taking advantage of his speed, because that's the counter to when guys overplay his speed and all that kind of stuff. So you're right, gotta convert the plays. Otherwise,
other than
kind
that,
of
there wasn't really a wide receiver that really stuck out.
Yeah,
I feel sorry for him. Will Shepherd was kind of having a rough night.
Yeah.
I like Will Shepherd, and obviously there's something the Packers liked about him to keep him around all last year, and he got a little bit of time in some, towards the end of the season. Prather, I know he made a couple of catches, but I didn't really see anything. Melton had a rough night with drops. Sky Moore. Do we want to talk about Sky Moore and his inabilities, or do we think we beat that horse to death?
We've done enough on that. It's all gonna come down to how he looks returning kicks and punts in the preseason
games. He didn't look that good in the limited times he did it in that family night. So
yeah. So like you said, we don't have to beat a dead horse on that one. Tight ends, I thought Dabney looked good in the one-on-ones. I thought he had a couple nice routes there.
I know it shocked Wayne and Larry, because they were like, this guy is more known for his inline blocking and stuff, and here he is out, really turning on and making plays.
Yeah, and it wasn't against any of the top guys, but he was doing it against the DBs and stuff. So it's not like he's like against a totally mismatched linebacker or anything like that. He's doing it against someone who can like athletically keep up with him, kind of thing. So that was kind of impressive to see. Wiley, I thought, was solid. Hope the neck injury that he popped up with isn't anything too serious. It's just a matter of, like I said, I hope they're just, LaFleur alluded to it in his presser that it's like Tuesday or Sunday was going to be like a slow day, and then Monday we would ramp back up, kind of thing. So you just hope that is a case where like guys who were tender after family night, let's just take a step back and like make sure everything's as okay as possible, kind of thing. Otherwise, not much out of the tight end room.
Swinson didn't look good. He had one or two catches, but he looked slow and everything else.
And then had a couple drops too in the one-on-ones. So it's been a rough training camp for Swinson.
On the bright side for friend Nick Gregory out of Australia, former co-host, Thomas Yasmin looked pretty decent in his limited little snaps. Bibber had a couple of catches, but you couldn't really make any judgment out of him. So just to cover
he's playing against he's playing against like the fourth string kind of thing and stuff, so it's hard to say anything.
I know they were talking him up because he's from like Cedarburg or something like that in Wisconsin, so
yeah, got
the hometown guy or
the
whatever,
home cooking. Yep. And then at running back, again, it's hard to say much because they're like popping pads and stuff, but they're not really drive blocking anyone or anything like that. They're like the offensive line is like fitting to their run blocks, and the defensive line is honestly, the D line was probably taking it a little more seriously. Like I said, like Sorrell dropped a couple guys on some of the run plays and stuff, but it's just good to see Lloyd get through the practice with no issues. He kind of was like almost over slow playing some of his reads and stuff like that, and just like really practicing his revamped running form and his explosiveness out of his cuts and stuff like that. So it was good to see him get through the practice. He had a catch on Christian Welch that wasn't even Welch wasn't in bad coverage either, kind of thing. It's just that Lloyd is that explosive out of the backfield kind of thing. But the overarching thing is he made it through no issues. I thought Strong actually looked pretty good out there. I know he had the touchdown off the screen pass in the low red zone, but I thought he had a solid showing. And then Martinez looked a lot better once they did the quote-unquote live tackling portion where he kind of broke away for like a 15-yard runner, because he was always going to look better in that scenario. He's just not a 7-on-7 player. Like he'll look good if he gets into the open field kind of thing, but he was always going to show better when it's like, oh, we're actually have to tackle people, and he is a 6'1", 230 guy kind of thing. So yeah, I expect that his showing for like proving whether he deserves a roster spot is going to come in the preseason games where he like actually gets to run against like a real defense kind of thing and stuff. But good news, like I said, on the running back front. Lloyd is healthy, knock on wood. And it seems like he's not saving himself, if that makes sense. Like, he does seem like when he's doing the drills, he's going full out. Like, I know they're limiting his reps, but it doesn't look like he's babying the reps or anything like that. Still looks explosive, which is really good after he's just dealt with soft tissue and weird injuries the past 2 seasons. And then the other good news is Chris Brooks returned to practice on Sunday. So, and he had like a funky comment. It does sound like he was trying to like really revamp his bot. It reads like, because his comment was, it was a good learning experience or something like that. That was his response to when they're like, oh, like what happened with your injury, that, and he kind of like had this kind of like, yeah. I don't want to say put words in his mouth, but it was almost like he's like, it reads to me like, I bit off a little more than I can chew, and I strained my hamstring because of it, and I know now, like, hey, like, don't have to go that all out in off-season training kind of thing. Like, it kind of, like, between the lines, it kind of read like that to my point of view. But, all things being equal, the top 3 guys are there. It's Jacobs, Brooks, and Lloyd. And it's on Martinez, Strong to, like, especially Strong, because he's out of practice squad eligibility. It's on them to, like, prove they're worthy of a 4th running back being kept on this roster.
And, well, you don't forget about Nixon. You got to throw Nixon in there, because
Nixon had a good showing, but I put him in he's their, like, practice squad target guy kind of thing. But he did do a couple nice things on film. He's the guy that I thought he was coming out of UCF, honestly.
We got to speak on that. So, friend of the show, Sarah Kelleher doesn't.
Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much. I like you said, Martinez looked pretty good when they started going into more your quote-unquote live action. Lloyd, we all knew what Lloyd was going to be. It was just, is he going to be able to show it because he can't see the field? Hopefully, like you said, they got that worked out and he'll be able to show. I'm wondering how much he'll play in the preseason, or if they'll just say, no, we'll keep you practicing just so you stay in shape, but we'll save you for week 1. Yeah, there's not much more you can really say about running back, because they don't have an overabundance of them on roster at the moment, which is why it's a little bit weird that they brought sign that Keyshawn Johnson instead of bringing in.
Well, and then they literally just claimed another wide receiver off waivers. So I don't know. I'm just kind of confused what they're doing. Yeah, so former LSU kid. So yeah, who knows? Maybe they really are going to throw the ball more this season.
That name sounds familiar. I have to look through my scouting stuff.
And then quarterback. We'll see how it looks in the preseason
We're gonna get
games.
in quarterback, but I want to do this real quick.
Oh,
so we had a comment on one of our TikTok clips from the show. We were talking about it was me talking about how I'm kind of concerned about have we decided if he's still going by Tyrod or is it Tyrod now?
I don't know. Taylor.
I don't either.
Yeah.
About how we're kind of concerned about him because he hasn't been like showing out that he deserves to be the backup in practices and stuff. And Saint Blitz over on TikTok says it's the backup quarterback. If you are worried about that, you are hoping Love gets hurt. No, it's not that we're hoping Love gets hurt. It's that we know Love has missed a couple of games every year so far. We knew we were in good hands with the way Malik showed out. Now we have nobody in the position to lead the team if it happens.
Yeah.
And the reason why I wanted to bring that up now is because I don't think Tyrod Taylor looked any better at family night than he has in the other practices.
And the unfortunate thing there is that neither Drones nor McCord showed much of anything. And again, they're playing with like the third and fourth O-line and stuff, and that's where I'm hoping that Taylor doesn't play too much in the preseason, because I do want them to get to play both with the better of whatever O-line players the Packers do field, but also get to see the like better defense, the like more closer to first string defenses on the field, because Taylor is going to be just a 1 year older and worse version of himself than whatever he was last year at this point. He's at that age where he's just getting older and his physical skills are deteriorating. That's what happens when you get older. And
he's 37, and there's a reason why he's jumped around to so many different teams.
That's why he's got, half the team scratched out on his collection card. And like you said, it's not that we think McCord or Drones are the next coming or anything like that, but we need to see they don't just need a clipboard carrier. And I know Jordan will try to play through things. He played through the thumb. He played through all the leg ailments after he returned in 2024 and stuff. And he had a couple ding-ups in 2023. But like you said, he's been dinged up or missed games each of his 3 years as the starter. And the season is only going to get longer because they keep wanting to add extra games here and there kind of thing and expand the non-Sunday game palette and all that kind of stuff. So we're not questioning who's QB2 because we don't believe in Jordan or anything like that. We're just going off of what has been his historical trend, and unfortunately historical trend is just 3 seasons worth, and he's missed a few games every season. Yes, the concussion he's suffered is a more freak one than really all his injuries have been kind of freak incidents, but it just shows that you do need to have a contingency plan because shit happens in this league, and you have to have a viable game day option because if I know this is a bad thing, but if Malik Willis couldn't win us a game down the stretch of last season, what is Tyrod Taylor going to do any different that's better than what Malik does? So that's the way I look at it. And like you said, you can say whatever you think about us worrying about it, but it is a concern because Jordan has missed 6 or 7 games over the past 2 seasons.
And that's basically what I said in response to him, but I wanted to bring it up here just in case anybody else is thinking that's what we're talking about. No, we just we don't want to be back in the old McCarthy days where we had some random UDFA as the backup, and then we have to rely on that. We don't want the Graham Harrell in there. We don't want Scott Tolzien. We don't want
Seneca
those
Wallace.
Yeah, but Seneca was at least drafted and had some success in prior stints. But we don't want to have that guy back there that, we even questioned that when Malik showed up, because all we had with Malik was what little bit he did down in Tennessee, and that was almost nothing. So, it's one of those things that, yes, we're not hoping for him to get hurt, but there is the trend that he has at least missed 1 or 2 games in his starting years. So we got to have somebody that we can trust to go out there and win a game. And at this point, I don't trust Tyrod Taylor to win it.
Yep.
And, saying with McCord and Drones, I don't think they were bad during the practice.
Just nothing really happened. Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't really giving me... I mean, McCord had a nice thread-the-needle type throw for a touchdown on one of the what was it, 7 versus 7 or 11 versus 11 or what it was. Drones kind of drove the field on his 2-minute drill, but
they're both playing with guys who aren't making. They're both playing with guys and against guys that aren't making 53-man rosters at this point. So it's hard to make true determinations of what they're really doing within the system.
We would have been able to make better decisions had they went out there and went 10 for 10 for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns or whatever it is, because that means that they're torching competition they should be torching.
Yeah.
Even Tyrod Taylor didn't do that. And he should be torching a lot of these guys that
just off veteran, the veteran savvy that a lot of people are saying is so important. You're right. Like, that is the part too where it's like, he's not just out thinking the not first string guys, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, the veteran savvy that everyone says is so important is not translating to the field tangibly in any way.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where I'm at with it. And, I'm hoping something happens to where, whether somebody is cut the Packers really liked, they make a Malik Willis type trade. Because the thing is we've seen it with Malik, that LaFleur can take a guy that has talent and put him in a situation to win. I just don't think Tyrod Taylor has that type of talent right now at 37 years old.
Yep. That's where I'm at as well. But we have been going, this episode is 1 hour and 20. We've been going basically 2 hours because we had to restart and redo. We'll just put a bow on it here. We've covered it. We covered Family Night pretty well. We covered the recent transactions. The first game is coming up on Thursday. I'll try to do something after that ends, whether it's a TikTok or a short live or something like that. I'll see what I can put together on Thursday night after the game just to get something up. But, Joe, you got anything else before we put a bow on this one?
No. I mean, if you see me around the Green Bay area, say something.
Yeah, that's right. He will be there.
Don't hit me. I don't really feel like being hit. But yeah, I mean, we should be able, as long as the hotel internet holds out on me, we could do something Thursday night after the preseason game. Because it's an away game, so I won't even be there. I'll be at the hotel just chilling out.
Sounds good.
But no, I think that's pretty good.
All right. Well, we'll do our usual. Check us out at Ohana_Packers on Twitter, at Ohana Packers Edition on Instagram. Please continue to follow us on Facebook. We're trying to get to our 100 followers so that when we do go live, we can stream live to Facebook. We're getting really close. We'll also be doing a drawing when we hit that 100 subscriber. Please follow the podcast on your favorite podcasting apps. Please give us a like and a subscribe. As you did, Joe, he found something on a TikTok comment, whether it's there, one of our personal Twitter accounts, the show's Twitter account, Instagram, whatever. If you comment give your thoughts, questions. We will respond to it on the next show. So please keep sending us those. But until next time, that's Iowa Joe. I'm Mike. Go Pack Go, and aloha.
Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for all, let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for all, you know. Green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.